Hey Ted, we should do another best character class to play for a race in Dungeons and Dragons, but which race do you think we should do?
Got an idea.
Come on, man, what's that all about? What the hell? I would never do that to you.
Oh, you don't remember this from a previous video?
Alright, so I did it one time.
Well, what about this double shot?
Okay, Ted, I get it. But speaking of double birds, let's talk about D&D Aarakocra and Kenku. What character class should you play? Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds, I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Maybe it's your first time visiting Ted's basement. It's a place where we like to discuss news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. And sometimes we even talk about other role-playing games.
So if you don't want to miss a single video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and to tune to that notification bell.
Alright, so we're actually going to 2 different books this time. We're going to go to Volo's Guide to Monsters, as well as the Elemental Evil Player's Companion, because we were like, you know what, let's just incorporate all the bird folk together.
Bird folk, are, really cool races, and there's definitely some similarities, so it really fits into one video.
Alright, so we'll start with the Aarakocra, and their stat bonuses are going to be Dex and Wisdom, +2 to Dex, +1 to Wisdom.
So speed is something that we should have a conversation about. They only have a walking speed of 25 feet, similar to the small races, even though they are medium. But if they're not wearing heavy or medium armor, they have a fly speed of 50, which is really nice. Contentions for some DMs. They also have a talon proficiency, so they can attack with their claws for die 4 damage.
And then they get a couple languages in addition to that. So the languages are Common, Aarakocra, and Orin, so they get the 3 different languages. So Aarakocra are actually pretty light when it comes to the racial traits or features. Most of it is relying heavily on the fact that they have a flight speed, and it's actually a pretty fast flight speed.
It's pretty potent, and as we've talked about in other videos, which we're not going to get into today, it's definitely an advantage and a drawback at the same time. So I do feel that they are lacking.
I think worth pointing out, though, is they are not Adventure League legal, as they don't allow first level characters to fly.
All right, so let's dive into what our expected character classes that we have going on for this one. And I think with Dex and Wisdom, I think it's pretty obvious.
Yeah, it's pretty easy. They're going to be good at being divine casters, so Druid and Cleric, they're perfect for those.
And then if we talk about, having that bonus of dexterity, they're going to make good, dex-based warriors, rangers, rogues,
fighters. And then obviously Dex and Wisdom, that's going to be a monk.
Absolutely.
So those are all pretty easy. They're going to excel at all of those. Now, which is also basically a huge swath of options for when you're picking a race that their stats are optimal for. So that's pretty good, which makes it a little bit harder to pick out their unexpected character classes. But I think we did pretty good with this one and found a few. So with them for unexpected, we kind of led with a couple of themes, right? One of them being the idea that air magic is going to be something they excel at. And that's kind of represented in D&D through lightning and thunder damage for the most part. So Storm Sorcerers is a super awesome thematic pick for them, as well as, any spellcaster that has access to those kinds of spells. Now, Druids and Clerics do, but they're the expected character classes. They're the ones that we know they're going to be good at. So now we're looking at more at the arcane spellcasters.
But speaking of arcane spellcasters, since they're already having that dex bonus, you could really double down on that armor class and go with Draconic Sorcerer to, add that extra bump in there.
Yeah, that would definitely work because they are restricted on the types of armor they can wear, and getting 3+ your dex is going to be really good for them. The other place that we kind of looked at and thought it would be thematic, and maybe a lot of people wouldn't think about it, but that is the idea of a Storm Herald Barbarian.
So getting that bonus to dexterity, you've either got the ability to, break your boundaries and play a dex-based barbarian, or be willing to put, a higher stat into your strength and still be able to, put your 12 in dex, bumping it to a 14. So now you got a 14 strength, 14 dexterity.
Yeah, I believe way back when we did a character build and we called the character Pelican, and I believe it was the idea of an Aarakocra or barbarian. But also, you're going to be able to attack from air, land, or sea with that Storm Herald because they get a swim speed, they have the fly speed, they're going to be able to breathe underwater. So I really feel like there's some interesting crossover there to make a funny, unique character.
I think that would be a lot of fun, and let us know if you want to see us make that character build in the future.
But Ted, you know what else would be fun and unique?
What is that?
The Nerdarchy Kickstarter. That's it. We've been threatening it for years. We're finally doing it. Now available on Kickstarter. Out of the box encounters for 5th edition. We went and done it. It used to be a series we had a lot of fun putting on our website. Mike Gould did an amazing job writing it. We decided that this needs art, this needs maps, this needs some things that we need to revise in it and make it even better. There is going to be new monsters, new magic items, all kinds of cool content created by us alongside Mike Gould, who is the primary writer on this project. We've got Sarah Dallinger working on the cover for us. Kim Van Doon is doing the interior art. Daryl T. Jones is doing our maps and helping out with some of the other illustrations. This thing is looking amazing so far. These are going to be encounters you can just drop right into your game.
Speaking of dropping right into your game, we are partnering with Arknight, who make flat plastic maps and miniatures, and they are actually going to be doing an Arknight package for the Kickstarter that you can be able to get. It's going to include the minis, the flat plastic minis that is, and it's going to include the maps so that you can be able to literally drop it all right out of the box and play those adventures.
But that's not all. We're not going to let the cat out of the bag here completely, but we do have some special guests that are going to be doing encounters for the stretch goals. Basically, the book will contain 30 encounters, but we plan to go way beyond that as we unlock more stretch goals. We've reached out to our friends in the RPG industry, many of whom you're going to know who they are, and they're going to be writing encounters for us. I'm so excited to see what they come up with.
So drop down in the description below, check out the link to that Kickstarter, and you can support Nerdarchy by supporting Nerdarchy on Kickstarter.
But it's not time to fly out of here yet. We still have one more birdfolk to go.
We got the Kenku, and Kenku is so much fun, and we're going to see a little bit of similarities between our Aarakocra friend and our Kenku friend, because they're going to start off with the exact same thing, +2 to Dex, +1 to Wisdom.
But that's where their similarities kind of end. In a lot of ways, I actually think the Kenku is superior in their features. While Fly is pretty cool and sweet, at a certain point it becomes redundant. Doesn't matter as much. There's going to be times you can't use it. But Kenku gets a lot of fun abilities, like Forgery Expert, which basically they have advantage anytime they try to recreate something that they've seen.
They're also going to get vocal mimicry. They've actually been cursed as a race and don't have the ability to speak on their own, but they have got, perfect memory when it comes to what voices and what things have been said by other people. So they've got the ability to literally speak in someone else's voice. And that's literally the only way that they can speak is through the different things that they've heard. This little feature, this little power of their race makes them so much fun to play, because while you're playing, you can literally be either manually recording or digitally recording what other people are saying and go and use that back. Oh, I say in Fred's voice, I want to do this. Can be a lot of fun.
They also get something called Kenku training, and that's going to give them 2 skills that they get to choose from: acrobatics, deception, stealth, and sleight of hand. 2 extra skills, not bad at all.
For a very rogue-like build, getting extra skills, super handy. Their languages are very similar to the Aarakocra. They get Common, they get Aran. They don't get Aarakocra, and Kenku don't have their own language, as you would kind of expect.
All right, so for our expected character classes, they are pretty much exactly the same as, the Aarakocra.
All right, so as Dave says, they're the same. So if you happen to, forward through the Aarakocra because you were really excited about the Kenku, we're talking about your Divine Spellcaster. So your Cleric, your Druid, your Dex-based, martial classes like your Fighter, your Ranger, your Rogue, and, as Dave pointed out, with the last one, Dex and Wisdom make Supreme Monks.
Although I feel like these bird folk would be awesome and thematic for Way of the Shadow Monks.
I would agree.
Now, when we get to our unexpected character classes, this is where we're going to deviate a little bit. This is where we're going to kind of drill down on the theme. Because the Kenku have been cursed and they can no longer fly, they always kind of dream of flying and they want to fly. Matter of fact, one of the ways they punish criminals is a mockery of this, and they kind of like throw them off a cliff. So any spellcaster that would give them or grant them access to flying magic, I think would be thematic and would fit a Kenku character.
Yeah, my first go-to for unexpected is going to be Bard. To literally be like, hey, I'm going to maximize that vocal mimicry. So it's like, hey, that Bard did an awesome song, or, played an awesome, piece on their instrument. Oh, the Kenku is just going to open his mouth and repeat it.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. Whether it's actually the instrumental, the vocals, they could go and watch plays put on by other actors and actually do the performances in their voices. I think I was going in a different direction. Actually, I thought they would make great stand-up comedians or ventriloquists.
So there'll be a lot of fun there. But I mean, I think literally copying somebody else's performance word for word would be, the key selling point for using Bard.
Some will call it plagiarism, though.
But there is one more, and I think this one is kind of touchy, and there's some cause for discussion. So I'll let Dave point out this one.
All right, I thought this would be a cool one because what better to tempt a Kenku with than giving it its own voice? And what character class is basically centered around being tempted? That would be the Warlock. And the Great Old One gives you the ability to speak mind to mind. It gives you telepathy. And I feel like that might be a selling point for a Kenko if their patron's like, hey, I can give you your own voice to speak in. Patrons tend to be a little shady, and they're not telling the whole truth, but close enough.
So now the wording of it, if you look, you dial down on the specific thing under the Great Old One and the specific thing under the Kenku, it's a definitely a gray area because they both use the word speak. So I don't know. It's going to be up to your DM as to whether or not you finally have your own voice, or whether you, even through telepathy, still have to use other people's, thoughts and words and what have you.
Well, I think either way is great, but if you kind of get deceived and tricked, I think it's even better because, like that's how I feel like Warlock Patron Pack should go anyway, kind of.
It's not supposed to just be hey, do you want this great thing? Sure, this is amazing. There's supposed to be a little layers of, fun and intrigue and, as you said, trickery.
It's a darker character list. But the question is, what do you folks think? Did we miss any? What would you add? What have you played as an Aarakocra or a Kenku? Or maybe you don't allow them in your game. We got a great place to where we can discuss it. That is down in the description. Don't forget to check out that Nerdarchy Kickstarter, out of the box encounters for 5th edition. But before we head on out, I want to take a moment to invite you to join the Nerdarchy adventuring party over on Patreon. Ted, what can they expect over there?
We're creating products for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons every month that both players and DMs alike can drop right into their game.
But that's not all. We do monthly giveaways, and patrons are automatically entered.
We also do weekly Patreon hangouts and more.
So with that, quest on down to the description, join the Nerdarchy adventuring party, and until next time,
stay nerdy.